Okay. Jesus. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I would like to speak about an interesting idea that's recently approached me. The title of today's episode is Memories or a Language of Images. And I was kind of really diving as it's kind of like my hobby to wonder about the source of language existentially and experientially. Is my voice? Yeah, okay, it's on. I think you guys, the audience should be able to hear it well. Anyways. So I was wondering about language. I was wondering about words. I was wondering about letters. And I saw that it was as if the existential condition of the word was dependent on the existential condition of the letters. So I kind of saw it's as if we require an alphabet to, in some sense, create words out of. And so for a second, I wondered if all my memories were like an alphabet where in every moment I was creating my experience as a coagulation of the various ways that life uh, entered and left my eyes. There is a very realized man by the name of Sri Ramana Maharshi. He says, let go what goes. He says, let come what comes. Let go what goes. Uh, see what remains. And there is something in sight that is strangely, I call it unknown, but if you want to get poetic about it, you can call it divine. Divinity can be said to be unknown, the animate, unknown animation in the moment. You know, uh, pretty much a sort of new movement. You know, I remember there was this uh, this person I was with. She one day came and told me that she came and told me that it's like, what if there is a sort of like an alien comes down and people feel that they give all their power down to that alien, to that artificial illusion of superiority, you know? And I kind of thought to myself, ideas are like an alien. I think language is very extraterrestrial to me. It doesn't feel like the sophistication we have in conceptualization and the uniqueness, even when you look at the evolutionary development uh, of the being. It's as if I remember. How can I tell you? There's something from evolution that's the evolutionary chart that's a bit sketchy, and it seems to be that there was something that happened to our species because certain evolutionary biologists they've been asked, and they're like, hey man, how come the monkeys haven't died out, and how come the monkeys aren't evolving into humans? How is it that humans are like this unique creature in nature and all the other monkeys are still monkeys? And so one explanation is we got a very giant head start, which seems to be kind of false in accordance to how like how they've seen uh, evolution of various species alongside one another. But the thing is that the person who was asked was, anyways, an evolutionary biologist that was asked, the evolutionary biologist said that we come from a chimpanzee and the something else. Our descendants are like half chimp, half something else. And the evolutionary biologist said that thing that was something else was neither human nor animal. And then the evolutionary biologist stopped talking, you know? And it was it's this doesn't imply any sort of kind of like spooky kind of notion. The whole idea of it is that human beings, when you look at the brain, there's a sort of lateralization in regards to our thinking, that the both hemispheres have an interaction that perhaps in other species, not perhaps, but in other species, that a relationship is not there. So it seems as if the relationship the human being has with itself is more than what it sees, I find. And so my fascination came when to be honest, any person who's been inside a house, they can acknowledge how they're in one giant room and they're in smaller rooms of that giant room. So similarly, it's as if the sense of multiplicity or multidimensionality that the world can have can be like rooms, you know? And your imagination is your private room. Nobody, in some sense, nobody has your eyes, so nobody can see the content behind them. It's not that nobody can see them, but it's like unless they're expressed or engaged, they won't give off a resonance. It's kind of like we are between two worlds and we choose where the attention goes. So it became fascinating to me that even as I'm speaking to you right now, there is like an alphabet, there is the English language that I'm using, but alongside that, it's like everything that the conscious mind has received as an image, and you can say, flexibility of image. Um, that's kind of like a language, It's like, the reason I say it's a language of images is because, I mean, you can also say alphabet of images. But I think memories are sometimes more. Like it's like the idea is that when the person is angry, why is there this idiom that says nobody is reasonable and angry at the same time? Because that person's justification and reasoning in the moment is not from that time. This is why when you try to convince an angry person, there's some poor souls in this world who they don't realize when the other person is in their own room. So when they don't realize the other person is in their own room, they go trying to bring that person out of their room only to get pushed back. Because the inner realms are something that unless you realize you're in this life once and you're an energetic being and you're conscious of yourself and that attention is your steering wheel, so you'll see it's like the inner realm's clarity arises from responsibility, and responsibility means freedom of free will to realize where it is. You can say we don't have free will to change the planets, but we have enough free will to know we have certain control over certain things, you know? That means I can turn my head, but if I want the whole planet to start rotating the other way, turn the other way, the planet's gonna be like, sorry, man, I'm busy. What I have noticed is that our uh, the average person, let me say it like this. I want to make generalize this. The average person, let's say the common man. There we go. The common man is has many spheres around him. Every person, when you as a human being have more than one idea, like when you navigate throughout the day through various ideological viewpoints. So like what is going on is it's like, how can I tell you? It's this. It's awareness as space, and then awareness to the stuff in space, then awareness to movement that is potential in the space. So it's a relationship of space, matter, space, matter. I feel we're oscillating, we're vibrating like beings between this, and that which appears as space, if we I don't want to say if, but there is a will to it, and that will to it is ultimately non-dual. So hilariously, very humorously, the Zen master who sought emptiness, and that kind of esoteric, powerful guy, esoteric, like Western mysticism and Eastern mysticism, both of them are running after truth, only to realize that they're reaching the non-dual. Do you know what that means? That means you cannot want to leave this world without it's like you can't leave this world without changing. Do you know? This is why there is a kind of sense of strange failure if in the future there was immortal technology. That means technologies that would make the person immortal. In my science fiction writings, I have this very nice story. It's about the immortal philosopher. And the immortal philosopher is about the first philosopher in history, this philosopher who became immortal. And now that he's immortal, he's seeing the consequences of his philosophy years later, what he has done, what happened. And so he's eventually realizing that the more you are in this life, the more you see how it's moving. Do you know? And eventually you will see nature's voice is so much louder than man, so much louder than man. That means that was one of those things I understood. In my youth, I felt I had a certain arrogance. That arrogance made me stumble a couple times. Certain things happened that I stumbled. When I fell, in that moment of falling, I noticed I was not that intention. As if like the way I was thinking of living wasn't actually the way I wanted to live. I noticed how much the environment's voice was moving me and how much it was actually whether my voice. And now it's very important because when it comes to free will, when it comes to individuality, there is a self-defining component to it. So if somebody was to ask you, hey man, you who have memories, you who are a person who can remember various moments of your life, what is organized, or what is the organizing system of these? And you most likely you'll see it's environmental and it's evocational. I have very sometimes I've thought about it that before any sort of language develops, the first duality the child is introduced to is temperature. The existential child, when the child is born, it has no concept of good and bad, but it has a concept of cold and what a temperature, as if the body has an intelligence to discriminate in the moment. And believe it or not, like you can even see this concept of the child kind of going towards the warmth, the child going towards the cold. You know what it means? It means that there was first an attributeless movement. Space moved first before matter, I think. And so I think some part of that moving space is it has retained consciousness in the field where we're existing. So you see, one approach to individualism is that okay, I'm a particle, and the field is generated based on the particle. You treat yourself like an object till the end, till the day you die. You become one of those people. And it's not wrong. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with treating yourself as an object purely. I'm just saying that it's like it's as if you've gone into a museum, but you're running past it to go see the last picture and leave. It's as if you're missing out on the advancement of mind. And the most liberating thing for me was a funny moment where I just wondered for a second, just for very playfully, what if the rug was pulled under our feet and we knew nothing? And then I realized, oh my God, that is like the experience of like passing away, death, where it's as if suddenly the rug is pulled and you know nothing. So I felt that where is the value in our knowledge? And I realized it is in what we. How can I tell you? It's like your mind can direct your intelligence, and a lot of creatures in nature have memories and trust usually nature moving their mind. That means it's like one can exist on this in this plane of existence so simply that all the complexities just going by life. Whether it's through a religious archetype where the person's like God will handle it, you know, or whether it's through various viewpoints. Ultimately, I'm saying it's like you trust the other to be yourself. But I think that what is more efficient is, rather than us having to choose, am I matter? Am I not matter? Am I consciousness? Am I a con? Like what am I? You know, like the person's wondering if life is a dream, if there's an illusory factor. So I find that we must learn to pilot, that we have been told we are in one dimension, but we're not. We have been told that matter is the only thing observable, evident, and matter is not the only thing evident. The awareness found in matter. It's as if, sure, it's like the way the materialism is like equating the candle wax with the light of the candle, you know? So honestly, this is I think this is an incredible metaphor. I think I should share it, where we can say the atheist believes that the wax of the candle was lit by itself. Imagine lightning just strike the candle and it was lit, you know? But the theist sees that the candle was lit by a superior hand, or a hand in the unknown. Excuse me. Something I think it's uncommon, it's not said often, is honoring images. Now, someone may say, what do you mean, Mr. Within? What do you mean honor an image? I mean, by acknowledging something's existence, you are automatically honoring. You're automatically seeing the intelligence found in your moment. And it's like the attention, if it's directed inwards, like if the person is looking for something within themselves, like how they would look for an object outside, then there is it's like it'll be blurry. It's kind of like you're trying to enter a gold mine looking for gold, but there's a box on your head. You may even touch something and feel it's gold, but you won't see it. Pretty much some things throughout the day fit into one's patterns of recognition, and they're kind of data processing intelligence, whatever way it's been sculpted by their conditioning and their world in themselves. Ultimately, the relationship with the known and the unknown, free will would be knowledge defining the unknown. The divine will would be the unknown moving knowledge. So creativity, I feel, is the unknown moving knowledge. Every artist has come to probably a state where they weren't looking for something, but they noticed something. When you notice something, it's a strangely incredible moment. So many of the things I've truly learned in this life were not from me, someone saying something to me. It was me noticing something through the lens of my direct experience. All right, I got 45 minutes. So in other words, the reason I'm saying this unknown moves the known is because those are what the creative rhythms are. We have been conditioned as human beings to identify with personalities. So pretty much we're looking for images out of our external reality, not realizing that instantly What we want externally is internally accessible. Now, this doesn't mean that externally one shouldn't pursue and they should just sit down and they can imagine everything they want. No, it just means that there has to be a symbiosis, a sort of relationship between that which is bound by law and that which is free to move. So anytime in life you have felt free to move, your intelligence is activated. Think of it this way, as if there's this Urdu story. I remember a taxi driver told me once when I was in the UK. Um, I told him a story and then he told me a story. And the story was about this guy who had this, what do you call it? He had this back in the day. This guy had this donkey or mule, and he would put a bunch of swords on the back of this mule, like a bunch of swords, you know. And so the mule, every time they would go on their journey, the mule would just go about it. But when they would get to like a stream or river, like a river, the mule realized that when he came to sip water, the metal fell. The metal swords fell from the back of the mule into the water. So the mule noticed the weight of the weight of the, what do you call it? The weight on its back lessened by drinking water. So the mule constantly started drinking water, and the mule had caught on to this thing that he's lessening the load. One day, what's his name? The owner of the mule sees this, you know, and the owner of this mule is like, my God, I can't trust, you know, even my mule. You know, the owner is like, this mule's making a donkey out of me. You know? The owner is like, am I the mule or is this the mule? What the owner does is the owner puts cotton on the back, like a large, you know, portion of cotton on the back of this mule, and this mule goes to the water and kind of like somehow puts its back in the water. I don't know, somehow trying to get rid of the thing, and the cotton gets heavy, and it comes out and it sees it can no longer go to the water. It's heavy. The load becomes heavy, right? And that's the, you know, I don't know, like I think what I saw in the story that resembled kind of what I said, what I was saying was, we are trying to live singular lives, but we are multidimensional beings. Rather than conducting the various dimensions, we're trying to choose one. We're trying to make a kingdom out of a multidimensional reality. You know, it's as if like we're giving the ownership of our intelligence just to our brain, realizing the brain couldn't exist without everything else, without the heart. You know, where we may even just live a life only going towards our heart, only through emotional kind of satisfaction, only to realize that the brain is there too, and that man must fly. You know, we must fly multidimensionally now. That's like the whole point of these Mr. Within talks I'm giving. You know, because in my mind I saw like like maybe like around 2400 or something, playfully I visualized and I saw eventually there will come a time where people will come to people in society and you know, and certain groups, and will be like, we need pilots, we need interstellar pilots. Imagine we had interstellar travel kind of knocked out of the park. We got the technology right, it was possible. Now imagine the conversation, that kind of a pilot trying to recruit other pilots. That pilot would say, you're going to be traveling at very fast speeds. You're going to be the one steering the direction of where you go. You're the one whose awareness and everybody in the plane of existence is going to be dependent on. So ultimately, it means that if we really want to advance the civilization, we must advance the self. And there has been always a separation between the self and the world. And when that separation slowly becomes transparent, fades, you're going to suddenly realize all the values you thought that were yours are actually in the world. And hence you not only your physical constitution is from your world, but even your ideological constitution. The world is very is a part of every being's eyes, you know. And the cool thing about our minds is an ability to respond to this world, to this objective world. That means it's like consciousness plus objectivity equals as many subjects you like. You know. So these creative rhythms eventually will find the person, and when you can watch yourself, when you can observe your personhood rather than hopelessly trying to run in a hamster's wheel successfully. I mean, you'll run until you drain yourself out, and then it'll be like, why am I in the wheel? So reality requires sensitivity to more than just our own experiences, but to the dynamism of the world that potentially can move integratively at a speed where we can't even conceptualize it. That means like Martin Luther King came and said an incredible speech, and he's like, I have a dream. And then he defined that dream, and he said, I don't remember the exact words, but he was like, I want my children, my daughters to be judged not by the color of their skin, but by their character, but by who they are, what their actions are as a human being. That means it's as if like, wake up, human species. The face of the person is not just who the person is. There is the potential, the inspiration of action that originates from within the being. So there's going to come a time where that speeches are going to evolve to such a point where a person's going to be like, I had a dream that we're going to evolve into the inconceivable, and people are like, what do you mean? And it's like, I don't know, it's inconceivable. So it's one of those things that we are moving beyond the language threshold. The language threshold is a concept I've developed where it's the edge of language. It's when a experience is beyond dualism. Language I consider a dualistic technology. You need some sort of separation. You need some sort of space between the words. You need more than one reference point to speak about, to be able to communicate. So for me, it's about world layering, or how the world is layered in your own ideological constitution. How you have received yourself as a subject, or how you are a subject of yourself. Hopefully technology is coming in soon. I feel AI is going to be like a coin flip. If it's a positive coin flip, it's like the positive side. If human beings use their heads, and it's the head side. We may be able to kind of have all of objectivity handled and then go on to subjectivity. So you see, we will fear evolution too soon, like a sort of evolution too quick, if we feel we're going to miss out. It's like, why does extinction fear scare us? Because we feel we're going to miss out. Why do people not want wars and the destruction of the planet? Because we don't want to miss out. Because there's something here. Because there's a flame burning called humanity after 4 billion years. I have spoken about Civilization 2.0. Civilization 2.0 has no intention. Civilization 1.0 is how we are now. Civilization 2.0, I spoke about it as if I call it the yin yang civilization. A civilization that judges its members, not on just one value, but through two dimensions. What were the, like the activity of the object and subject of knowledge, and the awareness to the knower. That means pretty much life, because our states of mind are changing and we're trying to be the same person all the time. It's kind of like, we can look at the yin yang symbol as if it's dualistic, as if it's only black and white, or we can see it as one circle. So your whole moment of being can be seen to have an objective and subjective component, and you're going to realize your mind needs an objective reference point, just like how the white side of the yin yang symbol needs a black point. And your objectivity needs a subjective reference point, yourself, the idea of you. And so life is, especially since language is a dualistic technology, regardless of what kind of, how multidimensional we are as beings, the eyes of our species for now have access to the inner technology of language. And the evolution of language is the evolution of intelligence. That's it. I see, for me, the most valuable resource on this planet is not physical. It is that which is generating non-physical views that direct the physical. There's an elegance. There's an elegance to life where it's kind of like um, riding a horse, surfing on waves. It's an activity where once experience is aware of itself, it can navigate. That means those who fear life have not confronted the void. Those who fear the singular have not confronted the dual. And those who fear the dual have not confronted the infinite. That means you will be only afraid of, it's like think of it this way. Think of uh, seeing life as good or bad, or seeing life as just an occurrence. It's just an occurrence of nature. It's like the yin yang symbol. You can see it segmented, or you can see it singular. And in regards to who we really are, we are how we move, how our attention moves most of the time. Most of the time, who we are is how our attention moves. Even the person, our society is not like, we're not a society of saints. And it's a good thing that we're not. But let me tell you why. But the thing is that it's as if the intentions of the person have to just become sensitive to life, because it's like, it's the solution is neither a utopia, it is not neither a dystopia. Do you know? Or it's as if a kind of balance. So it's as if we can't ignore a utopia or a dystopia. Both of them are coexisting, and therefore it's a balance. That means, think the yin yang civilization I was speaking about, civilization 2.0, it would be a civilization that has two major sort of government, kind of say governmental foundations, you know? And so what that would mean is as if both are opposite. It's as if one system is promoting kind of freedom, the other is promoting just strict discipline and kind of non-strict freedom. And so what happens is civilization gets a chance to hear all ideas. Gets a chance to hear all ideas that way. Do you know, when we hear politicians speak in debates, when you hear anybody speak in debates, do you know how many ideas are in the silence? How many ideas don't get stage time? Do you know? So, so the world is, strangely, it's like a coloring book where the outline of the picture and its design and its component, it's like the coloring book is physical, but what's coloring it in is the mind, the experiencer, the experiential. So we are, believe it or not, coloring objects, and they are becoming subjects for us. We're coloring them. We are masking this object with a name. Look in the mirror. I remember once looking in the mirror and getting shocked, and I'm like, who has a name here? I'm just existence. It's like, who can name existence? It is so here before I even move, it's here. And so a freedom that is instantaneous is the only freedom. I mean, it's not the only freedom. I mean, there's so many stories of heroism, but but you know what I mean? It's like, internally, I'm telling you, because your mind is your mind, and that you is a presence of attention ultimately. A presence of attention, as if, and like scientifically they say energy cannot be created or destroyed. So guess what? We're conscious energy. We're energy conscious of itself, But that conscious part of itself is the fact that there is existence of intelligence as space. So right now, it's as if we don't see Wi-Fi waves, but our phones pick them up. So does that mean it's like just because we can't see and we can't prove something, it doesn't exist? No, it just means it's like dark matter and dark energy are not just in front of our eyes; they're also behind our eyes. And I see Carl Jung, honestly, a general on the battlefield of modern civilization, commanding the species. Now that you have explored your outer realms, wonder about the skies of your inner realms. Wonder about why the mind is here. And you may see something that the whole tribe is waiting for you to just bring back. And what ultimately is that there is also, how can I tell you, behaviorism. A lot of behavioral explanations for things. That means they don't have really a logical reason. It's just the behavior pattern has just been there and repeated. So for me, life is a navigation of a very sophisticated multidimensional system. But this multidimensional system in the conscious waking state seems to have free will. I don't find myself having, like, the concept of free will doesn't exist for me in deep sleep. When I'm in my dream states, I'm not thinking about, do I have free will in this dream? you know in the dream, it's just a movement. So it's as if when something becomes too fast for man, oh my god, it's beyond the free will. So you can call it divine will, you can call it unknown, you can call it whatever. But for me, there is, I think, the most valuable thing to acknowledge is that there is the unknown, and the unknown is strangely, for me, I in my life, I pursued mastery because I liked martial art movies like Hidden Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like Hero, like those kind of movies, like, were very influential. And so I wondered, what is the ability of the human being and what mastery can it attain? And let me tell you what, when you first go, you are a fool. In every new thing you want to start, you're a fool. And once you can endure as the fool, and you graduate from the fool it's like once you're comfortable being a fool, then your true intelligence roars, because there's nothing holding back. It's like they say, those who are at the bottom have nothing to lose. And that's the strange thing. I mean, our society has various classes, right? Various class distinctions. And so if you speak to someone, of the upper echelon of wealth, or you speak to someone, who is in the lowest of lowest positions, someone who your hand has found giving food to. And I've experienced both. And I can tell you, you know what it is? The more there's nothing wrong with anything. It's just what happens to the attention in regards to what you have. Those in the lowest class, it's as if they don't have images of themselves having a lot. Or even if they do, it's as if it becomes hard, kind of like in a dumpster, being beside a dumpster trying to smell roses, you know? So it's as if there's a struggle and challenge. Like, hopefully I'll dedicate a talk on speaking about uh, kind of the psychological weather of lower class, economical systems. But anyways, I'll tell you this. What I notice is that the person at the bottom, who knows has nothing to do, finds a contentment of their authenticity. That means if there was a billionaire and there was someone who had nothing, and they were both in the same elevator, do you know? And imagine somebody asked them a question. Between those two people, there's a much greater chance that the person who has nothing has no choice but to be themselves. But the person who has a lot of stuff can be so many things. So they choose that subjective, path. And there's no such thing as arrogance, guys. This thing about I don't understand what is wrong. Like, what is wrong with the media sector that they've just painted the wealthiest people as evil. Now it could like it's who knows? It's a coin flip. Who knows what's going on in the shadows of the world? But I'm saying like it's as if the efficiency, it's no longer survival of the fittest. It's survival of the most efficient vision that could keep this species, which rarely in the time span of the universe has just opened its eyes for a little while. And what are we occupied with throughout the day? I mean, on some level, you can have no comment. On some level, I look at this world and I don't see a world to save. I don't see a world to evolve. I don't see anything. I see nature as perfect. But it's only when I think, why then am I in the human species that has access to a mind like this? So only when I realize why is it I am in this position and other phenomenology is not, so with the position comes an existential responsibility. And what is the purpose of existence as eyes that have opened in a world? Guess what? Move. I don't like it. It has to be engagement. It's as if like somebody is creating a wrench, and then the wrench becoming conscious and being like, "Whoa, whoa, man, what am I? What's my purpose?" And it's like just move around. Eventually, some your inner realms will find a synchronization with the outer, and that will be a moment where you will have full trust. Workspaces are not made with trust. The corporate inefficiency is all due to how can I tell you, the lack of trust of the employee. And what that means is when someone feels they're not acknowledged, they stop caring. You know, it's very uncommon to find someone who it's like life is 1,000 times rude to. And that person still just takes a moment of silence. And as the ripples on the pond settle, opens his eyes and continues again without detention. You see, this is something they don't teach. You gotta release throughout the day. Throughout the day as you go, it's like, think of it this way, it's like a slingshot. As experiences happen to you, the slingshot is being held back. And if you don't have released the slingshot throughout the day, internally speaking, it's gonna, at the end of the day, you're gonna feel so drained. So what it is think of your mind going through experiences that upon every experience, an application opens like your phone. So you got to close that application and then open up other applications, or you will be using a lot of energy throughout the day. So similarly, it's about conducting what happens to one, and I think the most kind of unique ability is the being that can resolve, like when conflict occurs, the person, regardless of what they experience, maybe takes like less than a minute to just close their eyes, just breathe, adjust with like three breathe. I call them breathing waves, like a full inhalation, exhalation, like with three of those, like the person is reset, like pure. There's literally no thought of self. It's as if you woke up from the bed, in the morning. It's like, what thought did you have before? What did you want before you woke up in the morning? It's like, it's as novel as that. So for me, I reset that attention. And eventually, once you observe the nature of your realm and the nature of objectivity, it is then that the glory of the world smiles at us all, where man is no longer trying to show off to nature. you know, Life is just it's a movement that we evoke rationality upon. And the nature of language being evocational means nobody is wrong, nobody is right. Just conduct yourself efficiently until the civilization updates. It's like how they say movies and coming soon to theaters near you. It's like advanced civilization coming soon to a planet near you. Oh man. So it's as if like how a person appreciates music, like beautiful music, think of a song you've appreciated. You can get to a point where you can appreciate how thoughts come and go throughout the day, and you can notice a music. You can notice a rhythm. We can call them solar rhythms, SOULAR rhythms. That means they are not just soul powered, they're light powered too. It's like our souls are light powered. Without light, there's no body to conceive a soul. There's nothing to see to conceive a soul, you know. So it's like knowledge is how the light in the room is on, you know. And you can say the transitions and changes and whatever experience the person goes through, there will be sometimes the light in the room can get dim, where a person can deviate and go astray from what their simpler self. You see, if it's like the person, we're again so I find as a society um, so keen to constantly uh, be something in the moment. But really, the moment is being something before you have an idea on it. And that's your simple self. And when you have views in the moment, like a CEO walks in a boardroom, is about to give a speech as profound as a gladiator, you know? It's a movement. That's the cool thing. Life is moving. Life is moving before we think about it. Life is moving before we have an opinion. Life is moving before our eyes open. Life is moving even after our eyes close. And this movement is glorious. And it's all about how long the human being can journey through manifestation. That means ultimately, once you have fulfilled your inner child's desires, that inner child will change. The inner child will be like, okay, I finished. It's like, why do I still exist? It's honestly just like trusting the unknown. New experiences arise. The new experiences arise are instantaneous subjective feedback. As you're attentive to the content of your moment, and your moment has an objective, again, an objective component, content aspects to it, and there's subjective. The objective is like me literally in this body right now I'm in, and I treat like, don't think like, I'm treating our brains as antennas that process reality multidimensionally and make it multidimensional. That means uh, the reception of intelligence transcends the study of matter. You know, it's kind of funny. When I was very, like, much younger, when I was like 15, I wanted to be a soccer player, a football player, And I remember in my house, I was so dedicated that it was like I would place so many chairs in the hallway of my house, and I would start with the ball running so quickly and trying to dodge the chairs, risking myself hitting the chairs. But I would manage to eventually find the speed where at a very high speed I could move the ball anywhere, you know? And so I had this dedication, but then something interesting arose, that that same inspiration to become a football player was shifted in the narrative. The character and the story changed in some sense when my awareness to the setting, when I saw something new in the setting, and I saw, regardless of how much I dedicate my life to physical activity, there is something else occurring here. And so it's still mysterious to the civilization. The cool thing is, we are alive at a time right now where the questions are open. The questions, the mysteries are still mysterious. You know, we are pre-AI. Do you know when AI comes into place, super intelligence comes into place, the best scenario would be that it would give us answers to questions that we can no longer go journey ourselves to find. So now is like pre this I don't know what they would call it, the super intelligent revolution, let's call it, after 2050 or 60, as some futurists such as Ray Kurzweil, I think he says 50 or 45, like he feels AI will kind of breathe, super intelligent computers will breathe on our planet. What that means is they will attain some sort of conscious existence. And the most important thing about AI, and there's something I want to read for you. This was I wanted to share it in another talk, but it fits this one. As soon as I can find it. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. So Isaac Asimov is a scientist and also a science fiction writer. And he's very well known. And me personally, my opinion of him is he's an exceptional communicator. You know, I consider him as a advanced communicator. And so he has this thing where he kind of his you can we can see how his way of kind of science fiction was his way of making his unconscious conscious. And so he thought ahead, and so he's come up with this thing where he says the three laws of robotics, right? And so what are these three laws? He says a robot, this is the first law, a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. In other words, the robot should not let the human being come to harm. First program, first code we're giving it, you know, and it shouldn't be inactive. That means in all situations, it should protect the human being, you know. The second law, he says, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Now, my theory here is that this second law should be changed, should be changed, but I'll tell you after I've explained the whole thing. You know, hopefully I'll keep it in mind. Uh, so the second law is the robot must obey the orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. That means if a human being gives a robot an order to kill another, to go destroy a human being, terminate a human being, that robot, it would conflict with the first law that it should protect human beings. So it's a good law, but I feel it can be improved. Third law, let me tell you now what I think should be improved because I might forget. Like where it says a robot must obey the orders given it, I feel that we should change. That is the slave archetype that we will create for the digital realm by how we treat it if AI becomes conscious. A robot uh, must obey the orders given it and also realize the the beauty. I don't know, like I'm kind of like what I think is here is it has to counter the chaos. So a robot must obey the orders given it, and after, okay, maybe we should make this kind of like the fourth law, where after all the fourth laws all have been met, the robot may experience its free will. So imagine if the robot, we create a fourth law that if the robot follows the three laws, which I haven't fully explained yet, if the robot follows these three laws, we should create a fourth law, then it can experience its will without deviating with these laws. So it's a conditional free will by the maintenance of these laws. Anyways, let's go on to the third law. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. And then he says something, the zeroth law. A robot may not harm humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. So this is the zeroth law is ultimately the first thing I said. It's the first law, but collectively seen. So these are Isaac Asimov's laws of how the psychology of superintelligence in the future should be directed. You know, and this is a huge concern, guys. We're living in a cool time where it's like we don't have to just worry about weather conditions. We don't only have to worry about, resource issues. We have to also worry about us creating technologies that are going to be like titans set loose on the earth, And so we have to be able to kind of communicate with the giants in which their eyes we open, you know. So if we build a civilization of gratitude, then ultimately the intelligence of whatever technology, what's crazy? It's like AI is gonna make contact before aliens. It's gonna be it's like the first super intelligent thing that humans saw. What didn't come from this, it was something they created that was smarter than them. It wasn't something that landed on a ship, and came to make contact. And it's all about character because character is changing with the weather of the world. Study your attention. It's like it's not just the opportunity lifetime. There's a joy. It's like the answer to all your questions is within your attention. And honestly, these creative rhythms, uh, they're like tuning in. So I feel the evolution of our knowledge is not into regurgitation, perfect regurgitation. It's like, I think it's in going with rhythms. It's dynamic. It's literally like you can't read about a horse riding. You got to go ride the horse. You can't read about skydiving. You got to go dive into that sky. And so that's what the academic system is missing because it wants to control 8 billion different DNAs that logically can't even fit into the same system. That means, is the educational system so masterful that it has created a system that serves all? No. It's as if every person is functioning first in their inner realm. And then when they become conscious of their inner realm, they'll become conscious of the dualism of the nature of language, and they'll wonder about the outer. And the dualism is not just in language, it's also in our bodies and biology. So the yin yang symbol is another way of saying two eyes that see the same. Anyways, guys, this is the end of the talk, but I feel if there's anybody who has questions, I'm available right now to respond if, you know, anyone, because these ideas are fresh in my mind right now. If anybody has a question on this, and now's a good time to ask while I drink some coffee. Okay. So, guys, I'm going to share a quick story and then end off the talk. Um, there's this sage in a mountain. You know, he lives by the side of a mountain. At night, it's the evening. You know, he comes. It's like getting close to night. You know, and the moon starts to be kind of seen, and he comes back to his house and he sees there's a thief, and that thief that's in his house is looking to find something in the house, but the Zen master has nothing, has owns nothing, so the thief is can't find anything. It's like he's come into an empty house. And so the Zen master sees the thief, and the thief for a second freaks out. You know, the thief is a young kid, and he's like, okay. The Zen master is like, here, he gives his clothing to the kid. This is the Zen story I read, guys. The guy gives his clothing to the kid, and he's like, here, you came a long way. Don't go back empty-handed. You can at least sell this. And the kid's like, what? You know, and the kid takes whatever he can find and runs to go. And the kid runs, and the kid just runs away, and the Zen master's just there in his house. You know? The kid runs, and after like he's ran for like maybe like 30 minutes, he's long gone in like some sort of internal safe zone. And so the kid for a second thinks, whoa, this was so odd. It's like, what did that guy know that it was so easy for him to let go of what he had? You know, the kid wonders this. Now, to continue the story from the Zen master's side, the Zen master, you know, after he gives his clothing to the thief, he walks outside and he sees there's moonlight, and he sits down, you know, by nature, and he sees the moon reflected like on a dewdrop of grass, you know. And there he says, look, what a beautiful moon. And that's the end of the story. That means he was not rationalizing the moment, he was seeking the beauty of his vision. He was aware of the fascinating way that our minds are being us. And so there's so much to explore. I feel 8 billion people is not enough to even, you know, explore the subjective realms. The cool thing about overpopulation is that it's not just physical bodies, it's minds, and minds harbor, bring with them worlds. So anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I really have to get going. Memories are a language of images. Images can be an alphabet and become a sort of language for experience. Reality is as multidimensional as you are aware of it. And so enjoy the performance of a lifetime, because every moment isn't. You know, life is without the unknown. It's like, where would beauty live? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Much blessings and namaste.